When I was a child, every month my dad's cousin would drive from the Creek Nation of Oklahoma to our house just outside of Tulsa. His monthly visits were not only just to see us, but also to bring my family our box of commodity foods. He lived on tribal lands, and we lived in the city where the food distribution program did not extend. I used to help my mom put away the food from the box. I remember taking out each steel can, one by one, reading the stamped bold black letters that identified whether inside was pork, beef, chicken, peanut butter, or a fruit of some kind soaking in sweet, sugary syrup. There were plastic bags of farina, flour, and macaroni noodles. We got juices, cereal, evaporated milk, vegetable oil, and my favorite, a giant plastic jug of corn syrup. Finally, there was the boxed brick of processed cheese, so hard we had a special knife reserved only for this cheese. My family, like other Indian families, referred to these foods as commods, a word that later came to represent more than just our monthly box of food. Growing up on commods has become synonymous with Indianness, poverty, and ultimately poor health. As recent as the late 1960s, malnutrition was a serious problem for American Indians, and a majority of Indian children were underweight and much shorter than non-Indian children. Food programs to feed the poor and hungry were started during this time and focused on introducing food supplements, or commodities, to communities that were food insecure. Commodities introduced foods that are higher in fat and calories and lower in fiber than traditional Indian foods. Within one generation of commodity food distribution among Indians, the problem of malnutrition was replaced by the problem of obesity. Tribal communities use the term Commod bod to describe the overweight body that is a result of the rapid change from traditional foods to a dependence on commodities. Today, 70% of Oklahoma American Indians are overweight and 29% are obese. Commodity foods have replaced many traditional foods and are sometimes called Indian food by both Indians and non-Indians alike. For example, fry bread is today's most relevant Indian food. It's a tribal unifier served at powwows, events, and almost every Indian gathering. In fact, fry bread has been named the official bread of the state of South Dakota. An Anishinaabe woman who runs a website celebrating fry bread stories and recipes likens fry bread to turkey at Thanksgiving. It is a tradition, she says. But fry bread is not really a traditional Indian food. White flour, sugar, and lard, the ingredients that make up a single 700-calorie fry bread serving, these are commodities. The government provided these foods to starving Indians who were forcibly removed from their lands and no longer had access to traditional foods or subsistence lifestyles. My friends and I joke about our commod bods, aware that this term is more than a signifier for obesity. It connects our shared experiences of adversity as Indian people. In a country that has a long history of assimilation policies targeting Indians, Commod bod is a creative analysis of food insecurity that speaks to the ruptures created by relocation and poverty. But the use of this term also serves as an unhealthy marker for Indianness by linking commodities with overweight bodies. Indeed, Indians sometimes describe feeling afraid to lose weight because then they'll be the only one in their families not big. Others describe obesity as a social connector in a world that has few Indian role models and a lot of highly circulated depictions of Indians that represent static or inaccurate imagery or ideas of what being Indian is supposed to look like. When around other Indians who are overweight, you not only feel that it's okay to be overweight, but you also feel more Indian because the people you identify as really Indian are all overweight or obese. Obesity is unhealthy. It is associated with heart disease, diabetes, infertility, birth defects, stroke, dementia, depression, asthma, sleep disorders. The list goes on. But obesity is not a disease rooted in individual pathology and responsibility. Public health and biomedical research attribute diet, sedentary lifestyle, and even faulty genes as factors in the growing rates of obesity among Indians. These are but part of a much larger framework that is necessary for understanding obesity in Indian country, one that moves beyond individual risk and behavior to consider the influences of colonization and subsequent social, physical, economic, and political conditions that have created a collective memory and shared experience of historical trauma. It is here where we can explore the social conditions that give rise to the Commod bod, and we can begin to understand and address obesity as a product of and response to these unjust conditions. My family moved away from our tribal lands in search of better opportunities, education, and resources. We still needed help during that transition, though, and we survived on commodities, making do with what we had. I'm not advocating to do away with food supplements or commodities because there are many people who have no other access to food and need these. But commodities must include better foods, like fresh fruits and vegetables, and we must not lose sight of our larger goal, food sovereignty. That means challenging the structural violence by working to revive, to reclaim, and to protect our foods, plants, traditions, and knowledges so that we can maintain and continue our cultures. And that means reclaiming our bodies and our health.